Let me begin by humanizing some of the statistics that Carolyn sort of talked to you about. So Ed, I'm going to pick on you if you don't mind coming up. And round of applause for Ed. He's a little bit reluctant. Okay, so typically in Bloomington, Kentucky, that's a joke. When two sort of angle people say hi to each other in a business context, it goes something like this. You stand about 36 inches apart, you make eye contact for 2.8 seconds, no more, no less, for a whole variety of reasons. A little tiny smile, but not too much for you don't want to send any mixed signals. That's how it's done. But in the Latino or Hispanic marketplace, we do something called the abrazo, which means to embrace or to hug, and it looks like this. There you go. All right, round of applause for that. All of you can stand up right now. Let's give each other a big abrazo, then I'll get started. Let's go, everybody. Out of your tables. Then we'll get started.
So nice to see you.
Now, isn't that just absolutely insane? Look at the energy that was just released, right live. Does anyone know why that felt so good and why you all laughed? Can anyone tell me? I don't even know cats, tell you the truth, but does anyone know why that felt so good? You were nervous? All right, what else? Why did you just react that way? Anyone know? It's a release, it certainly is. We are meant to be with each other as human beings. We really are. From millions of years of genetic evolution, we are meant to be together, and yet we're not. And so you have a moment, I kind of gave you this reason to open yourself to one another. A little hug, it's a little weird for some people, probably. You have to worry about sexual harassment. Maybe you don't even like the person you hug. But still, when you do it, if you think about your life, the true moments of joy and happiness, whether it be personal or professional, are with someone else. Think about the times in your life that you've been happy. And it's hardly ever when you're sitting there by yourself, right? It's almost always with someone else. Or in this case, a large sort of group. So the question becomes, how do you learn to do the abrazo, which means to embrace to the Latino marketplace? So that's the number one thing that I'm going to share with you today. What you do with the data that Carolyn started to talk about, I'm going to tell you what to do with it. Actually, you can make more money and feel this way about doing business. That's like a good idea? I can hear you. Oh, okay. See, okay. This is a very cool picture. This is an artist named Rito.
Go ahead and bring them down to there. Refresh.
I don't know if you made it out this way. You have? He's an awesome artist. I think he's from Colombia, and it's held. It's a hug. He's got his arms for this person up there. Okay, let's just look at the title of this slide, and I can speak with you for 1 hour about this slide without going to anything else. I won't do that, but let me tell you why this means a lot. This one picture. Okay, are they Latinos or Hispanic? So by round of applause, how many of you think that the people that we're referring to are Hispanic? Just round of applause if you think it's Hispanic. There's no right answer. How many think it's Latino is the correct answer? What Carolyn said about starting in the 1960s, Chicanos as a word to describe people has actually been going on since 1760. And in 1760s was the first decennial census in the United States history. And at the time, they needed to figure out what to do amongst blacks. And at the time, if you owned land, you could vote. So the people who were in power at the time didn't want that. So they made the rule, the definition of a black was if you had one drop of traceable black blood in you, you were black, therefore cannot own land, therefore cannot vote. Fast forward all the way to today. It's still similar in terms of motivation behind this, without me getting too political about it. Although I did serve on President Clinton's Commission on Race and Ethnicity, and I spoke on behalf of the White House around the country on these matters. Forgetting your political views, forgetting what you think about immigration, forgetting, your as I said, your political sort of view. The The question is, there's no such thing as Hispanic. There are Mexicans, and even within Mexicans, there are all types of socioeconomic strata. Does anyone know what the strata are called in socioeconomically? They use letters, A, B, C, D, and E, to decide, what socioeconomic group you're in. So for your purposes, you need to understand that in order to qualify leads, right? Because Carolyn said earlier that, we love people with money. But what is money? The average household income of a Hispanic household is a little bit less than the general market. But the fastest growing segment of the U.S. economy are actually Hispanics earning $50,000 plus. So do they have money? Do they not? Are they worth your time or effort? Or do they not? Hard to say. Your first annual, I thought, caught my attention. And there's two things there. Number one is you made a commitment to yourselves that you're going to do this every year. Let me tell you the problem with State Farm. And I know this because I've worked for your competitors. You've been in and out of the market like the tide. But so have your competitors. It comes and goes, shifting priorities. Let's do something, let's not do something. Let's do exploratory, focus groups and research. Let's not do something. Does anyone know why you can't get it together to the degree that you probably could? Anyone have an idea? I will pay for this one. No? The typical tenure of a chief marketing officer in corporate America is 26 months. That's the problem. Who's your CMO now? Or do you have that title? How long has he been here? She? Is she here? 2 years? Well, that's just the data. And so, the typical CEO tenure is, anyone guess how many years? Let's say it is years for a CEO of a company. 2, any other guess? It's a little more, it's about 5 years. But let's just go to the CMO for a moment, who controls the budget in many corporations. If they're going to be leaving in 2.5 years, there's a paradox in Latino or Hispanic everything. And these things take time. First annual, second annual, fifth annual, it takes time to get traction, to change culture, to be able to work and do well and make money in this area, but you're scored on short-term metrics. It is a fundamental paradox that will never work. It can't work, it doesn't work. I interviewed 364 CEOs of companies in America about this topic. It doesn't work and it can't work the way that it's set up right now. You can't go around trying to get corporate funding with a tin cup in your hand and hope to really drive revenue to the bottom line in a sustainable sort of way. So for you, let's say in the retail level as agents, I'm going to talk to you in a few minutes about what you need to do differently as well. So here are a few things that we're going to talk about first. Again, referring to what Carolyn said about the nature of change. Then we're going to talk about this expanded experience curve benchmarking thing that we developed, followed by why should you care about any of this at all. Then we're going to talk about the abrazo approach. And you're going to notice that there are going to be two distinct styles of speaking. Up front here, I'm going to be a little more substantive and cerebral. Then the second part is going to be more fun. And that's where we're going to sort of humanize the stories that I'm telling you about. Okay, does that sound all right? Thank you. Okay, so how do you define change? Well, there are different ways of thinking of change. And I think a big change is a sea change. You've heard that expression, SEA, like let's have a big sea change. SEA, and is State Farm ready for a sea change regarding Hispanic Latino? Round of applause if you think State Farm is ready for a big sea change in Hispanic Latino. Just raise your hand if you agree with that. Yeah? Okay, so that was a tepid response. Let's pay attention here for a moment. That was a pretty, tepid response for a group of people who are sufficiently motivated to actually be here. Imagine those people who are not here, what they think. That's a flag, folks, just as a heads up. Well, what about change that you can see, like a sea change, something visible? What about in your companies,